USAID has been shut down because it is evil. It was run by evil people with an evil agenda who did evil things. Evil does not exist just up there in the abstract somewhere. It lives in the hearts of men who hate others, but oftentimes pretend they care. Nothing could be further from the truth. The devil is their father because they do their father's will. When the Son of God returns on the clouds of heaven, it will not be to extend mercy to the human race. That's already been done. It will be to expose all the evil and injustice ever committed, every single sin, and then pronounce final judgment publicly. They don't call it Judgment Day for nothing. The deep state is getting a sneak preview right now of just how terrible that day is going to be. The slush fund set up by the deep state is the USAID, the unaccountable, non-transparent outfit by which the deep state exported sin and evil around the world, pretending it was all humanitarian care and doing it with your tax dollars. 50 billion of them, actually. Wisconsin Republican Congressman Tom Tiffany from Wisconsin slapped together this list that you're seeing right now with some of the more kind of easily seen and understood abuses. For example, $20 million. $20 million of your tax money for a Sesame Street show in Iraq. $1.5 million to advance DEI in Serbia. $70,000 to produce a DEI musical in Ireland. $47,000 for a transgender opera in Colombia. Like, what the hell is that? What is that? $32,000 for transgender comic book in Peru. $2 million for LGBT activism in Guatemala. Really? $11 million to stop burning trash in Vietnam. Why do you have to pay to not do something? $6 million to fund tourism in Egypt. That's insane. That is barely the surface and certainly not the most important. It's just the stuff as they kind of came across it little by little. And here they're like, oh, here's another one. Oh, here's another one. Oh, here's another one. But the deeper they dug, oh boy. Not, for example, on the congressman's list was that $8 million was being funneled to the media outlet Politico, the phony news agency whose only role the past 10 years has been to subvert Donald Trump. Your tax dollars given to a phony media outlet to undermine the sitting president and then help try to put him behind bars after he's left office. The money from the deep state slush fund was cut off by Elon and Doge earlier this week, and suddenly, Politico had to send out an email to all their employees this past Monday addressing why none of them got their paychecks as scheduled. They blamed it on a technical glitch that they're still trying to figure out. Sure. USAID is also the deep state slush fund that was used in part to pay Catholic charities and the U.S. Bishops' Conference hundreds of millions of dollars to smuggle in millions and millions of illegals into the country, again, under the pretense of being humanitarian. Still haven't come across that gospel passage about loving your neighbor by sex trafficking hundreds of thousands of minors and working with cartels to smuggle in deadly drugs, killing 150,000 mostly young people. But hey, I'm going to keep looking. Since we're done here, we'll go back to the Bible because all those liberal, irreligious types, they promised me, well, it's in there somewhere. But so far, the most egregious, by far and away abuse, millions more, over $50 million, were funneled out of the USAID account and spent in China for development of, you guessed it, the COVID-19 virus. The same virus which wrecked the world's economy, caused untold deaths in the millions all around the world, and not to mention the suffering, emotional torture as well as physical, that could never be measured. It all came out here. This is Elon's tweet about it. This is like the big story that people really aren't paying that much attention to. He says, did you know that USAID, using your tax dollars, funded bioweapon research, including COVID-19, that killed millions of people. He was responding to a earlier post by Kenoka the Great, who said USAID funneled $53 million to EcoHealth Alliance, which then used taxpayer funds to support gain-of-function research on coronaviruses at the Wuhan lab, research that likely led to the creation of COVID-19. The CIA's deception regarding COVID-19 origins becomes much clearer. There's more, obviously, to that, but you have to stop. You have to push pause on your brain to go, what? These communist bastards took our money and through a whole funneling network created COVID-19 and then released it onto the world. USAID has been shut down because it is evil. It was run by evil people with an evil agenda who did evil things. Evil does not exist just up there in the abstract somewhere. It lives in the hearts of men who hate others, but oftentimes pretend they care. Nothing could be further from the truth. The devil is their father because they do their father's will. The deep state, the vast majority of the Democratic Party, and not just a few Republicans, used USAID to create COVID-19, stealing your tax dollars, and then they lied about it, covered it up, blamed everyone else they could. Millions died from COVID with their deep state lying about their role. As Jesus said about the devil and his offspring, he was a liar and a murderer from the beginning. They said and pushed that it came from a kid eating a bat head in a wet market near Wuhan. A kid ate a bat head and the entire world was plunged into a plague. They made it up out of thin air to put on useless masks that they later admitted didn't really do anything. Then they created the 6-foot social distancing BS out of thin air. Remember those little arrows on the supermarket floors? As Fauci himself admitted, he said, well, just we were talking, I'm not really sure where 6 feet came from. They paid over $1 trillion of your money to giant pharma to create an inoculation they called a vaccine, which it wasn't, and began mandating you take it. They inoculated young children who were practically immune to COVID just naturally. They exempted big pharma from being sued from all of these side effects and even the surviving family of those who died from it. They prevented people from all over the world from visiting their loved ones as they died alone in hospitals and nursing homes behind those big giant plastic things, and they couldn't even touch each other. It's been the greatest singular crime against humanity in world history, and it was all funded by the deep state with your tax dollars out of that USAID account. That's why deep state heads are exploding all over D.C. now. They know Elon has followed the money and figured it out. Always follow the money. Instead of protesting, they'd be better advised to pack up fast and get the hell out of Dodge. Take up refuge in a country that does not have an extradition treaty with the U.S. At least doesn't have one at the moment, looking at you, President Trump. Judgment Day is coming, and it's coming fast. We're barely 2 weeks into Trump 2.0. Imagine what's still to come. Coming to you from Houston, Texas, yeehaw, Gary Michael Voris. God love you.